Today, on Be Something Wonderful, 3D reality is nothing without you. You give it all meaning. I am your host, Tom Kearin, and this is the Be Something Wonderful studio of higher consciousness, where we help you level up and become the best version of yourself. Creators, welcome back. Big video this morning. I want to talk about this idea that I've talked about in other videos, that your focus, your attention creates reality. It creates it all. Remember, your perceiving is reality. There's nothing outside of your perceiving. There's nothing outside of your awareness or your focus. And this came up with one client. I want to talk about a client that I had a session with, who I heard from yesterday, just after I challenged her for 48 hours to be intentional about her attention and focus. Right? Focus and put her attention on how she would like things to be, not as they appear to be. And then I heard there was another email from my other client that also was talking about the 48-hour challenge on a video that comments have been coming up recently about it, where I challenge it, where there was a 48-hour challenge to focus also on your ideal reality, right? Where you put your awareness. So I want to talk about both of these. First, with the client that I had 2 days ago, and when I heard from her yesterday, she said in just the first few hours of being intentional, of knowing that her focus, her awareness is reality, things were changing. Her thing was that the summer's almost over. She hasn't seen her daughter and her grandkids for several months now. And it looked like she wasn't going to see them until Christmas. She just wanted to see them. She was really anxious. And so during this, within the first few hours of just intentionally focusing on how she would like things to be, not necessarily specifically about her daughter and the kids, just focusing her attention on how she would like things to be, on things that are always working out with her, that life is good, all of that, right? Her inner, remember, her looking at the inner conditions of her thoughts and feelings, and also as she looked on outer conditions outside of her, looking at those outer conditions and seeing the greater reality behind those outer conditions, seeing things as she wants to see them. So she said within the first few hours, her daughter called her and invited her to stay with them over Labor Day weekend. They were going to go away with the kids, and they decided not to. They decided to hang out and invited her to stay with them during Labor Day weekend. That's big. That's a big change. She hadn't seen them for months. And then she was saying, as she was going through a drive-through, there was a car in front of her filled with family and kids, very alive, and the kids were playing. They were getting out of the car and then going around to the other door and getting in it and out it through the back seat. Just kind of going, opening the door, crawling through it, and then getting out, which was holding up the drive-through line, right? And as she's seen it, normally she would have an inner and outer reaction to that, right? It would maybe irritate her a little bit. And she goes, how fun. How fun that they can really get a kick out of just doing that, right? Just opening the door and going through the back seat and then going around again. But even though they were holding up the line, there was a car behind her that was getting impatient. So eventually she gets to the window, and it turns out that car that was in front of her paid for her food, paid for her takeout. There it is. Do you see how she changed reality, changed the way she looked at things? Both her inner conditions, her thoughts and feelings about her daughter and not seeing them for a while. It resulted in her being invited for that Labor Day weekend. And then that car in front of her at the drive-thru. Because your attention and focus is reality. It's all of it. Where are you putting it? Are you being intentional about what you're focusing on, both in inner conditions and outer conditions? Right? How you're seeing those outer conditions. Because remember, you give meaning to all of it. You give meaning to your thoughts and feelings. You give meaning to those inner conditions of thoughts and feelings. You give meaning to those outer conditions of people, events, and circumstances. So where is your attention? What screen? Remember, we talked about reality transurfing, which we're going to touch on today. What screen are you focused on? Is it on the inner screen of thoughts and feelings, or the outer screen of people, events, and circumstances? Or are you focused on your awareness center? Are you putting it through? Are you focused on that? Are you centered in your I am awareness and seeing things the way you want to see them? We're going to touch on this. This other subscriber wrote to me and said, Tom, your content is amazing. I love it. I did the 48-hour challenge. I released and let go of wanting anything. I left a link to that video she was referring to. I released and let go of wanting anything. I used the following statement: I am God and the one and only God. There's no other, and so everything is for me and nothing is against me. This was her affirmation. This was what she was focused on, right? And then she said, less than a few hours of, remember, directing her inner attention in this case, the inner screen. Where is she putting her attention? She put it on their awareness center. Her center as I am awareness, right? Taking it off the thoughts of things that are going wrong or feeling those thoughts to that awareness center. She said, less than a few hours, my SP contacted me after 2 weeks of no contact, and she received money. So whatever, maybe her, she didn't go into detail on this, but maybe her attention was on things are tight this month, and I haven't heard from my SP, on those inner conditions and having thoughts and feelings about that. Instead, she moved it to the awareness center, not on that screen, not on the inner screen of thoughts and feelings about her SP or the outer screen of seeing that there are bills to be paid, for example. She moved it to the awareness center, that I am center, right? Moved her attention off of the conditions and went within to her awareness center, that I am awareness, right? She was being intentional. Right? Look at 3D reality with the intention to see it the way you would like it to be, not the way that it appears to be. Judge not according to appearances, as Jesus said. Look at the lovely, right? Look upon it as you want to see it, right? Remember what A Course in Miracles says: if you want only love, that's all you will see. Look as reality, as that intention, as that love. Let's hit this like we never have before. Remember, 3D conditions are nothing or no thing, no form or nothing without you. In other words, without your light. You give conditions light, you give them life, you give them solidity, you give them reality. Right? That's why we often talk about when you're focused on the current frame of reality, you're trapped in that frame, because that frame has already changed. Right? Trapped in the frame, in the film roll, in the script of an undesirable or reality that you want to change. But you keep your attention on it. You keep recognizing it as reality. You keep giving it solidity. So that reality persists as you persist in focusing on it, putting your attention on it. Right? So what you give time, space, and attention to is reality. No thing or nothing exists outside of your perception of it, or in other words, your perceiving of it. There is no objective reality. Your perceiving is reality. So the question is, what are you perceiving? What are you persisting in? Right? Give your time, space, and attention. It is reality, okay? 3D so remember, and I love to use this. You guys know I talk about when Jesus is in front of Pontius Pilate, but it's so powerful, and I want to talk about it again in terms of think of Pilate when Jesus got captured. Think of Pontius Pilate as the 3D conditions, or conditions, both the inner conditions of thoughts and feelings and the outer conditions of people, events, and circumstances. Think of those conditions saying to Jesus, "Are you not speaking to me? Do you not know that I have the power to crucify you and the power to release you?" In other words, Jesus was not the I am, that I am awareness, doesn't speak or give attention to or light to conditions that are undesirable or to what it does not want to create. Do you see it? And it's more than, we're not talking really about ignoring them. We're about saying don't answer to them, see them differently. Right? You don't have to you get to decide where your attention goes. Right? So, are you not speaking to me? Do you not know that I have the power to crucify you and the power to release you? That's powerful. So Jesus, your I am awareness, does not recognize or give authority to 3D conditions to question its power over them. Do you see it? So the question is not ignoring necessarily the conditions. The question is just not giving them power, not giving them authority to create your reality, to decide what you give them all meaning. Your inner conditions of thoughts and feelings that are changing, and the changing up, remember, they're temporary conditions because they're always changing. They're not reality. Things that change are not reality. Your thoughts and feelings are always changing. The outer conditions of people, events, and circumstances are always changing. So Jesus at I Am Awareness does not recognize or give authority to 3D conditions to question its power over him. In other words, Pontius Pilate, he doesn't answer them. What, you do not speak to me? You do not answer me? Jesus doesn't answer to those conditions, right? Your I am doesn't answer to the inner thoughts and feelings or the outer people, events, and circumstances that are constantly changing. Your I am awareness creates them with intention, intentionally creates reality, intentionally decides what those conditions will be or what they mean to you. Right? Jesus then answers, demonstrating the proper use of denial. I love this. Jesus does answer. Right? And this is you demonstrating how to deny conditions that are not what you desire, that are not what you want to create, right? He demonstrates it here. He accepts the appearance of the conditions, but he denies the truth of the power of those conditions over him. Do you see it? So at first he doesn't even speak to them, but then he does answer. And he uses the proper use of denial. He accepts the appearance of those conditions that Pontius Pilate is asking him, and right in front of him, right? But he denies the truth or the power over him. He denies that they're not reality. They're not the truth of reality. And he says this to Pontius Pilate, or those 3D conditions, or those inner conditions of thoughts and feelings, or outer conditions of people, events, and circumstances. You would have no authority over me unless it had been given from above. From above, from the Father, from source, right? Those conditions can't exist. They can't have life. They can't have light without your awareness, right? Conditions are not source of anything. Do you see it? But yet we get all tangled up in them, right? They're in our face. I don't know what to do with them. They're not source of anything. You don't have to deal with them, right? Not in the way that you think. Follow the script. Yes, there might be a script to follow. You might have to be in those conditions and moving through them. But you don't have to give them power and authority over you. They have no power or authority without your light, without your attention, without your focus, without your life. You give them life and light and attention. So merely noticing unwanted or undesirable conditions, that is an experience of reality that is not your choice. Right? That's what we mean by that, those unwanted conditions, meaning those conditions are not your choice. That experience of reality is not your choice. That does not necessarily mean you're identifying with them as reality. Do you see it? Just because you notice them, just because there is some attention to them, you're just noticing, doesn't mean you're intentionally creating them or even unintentionally creating them, right? That is looking at them, putting your attention on them or reality, but not as reality. So you're looking at them at reality, but you're not looking as reality. You're not looking with the intention that that's your reality. There's a difference, right? You're seeing the appearances, but you're not judging them. You're not identifying with them as reality. You're seeing the greater reality behind them. You're deciding they don't have any meaning without you, right? Without the intention to go inside those conditions, to identify with them, to embody them, right? Going in. At is looking at. In is going within. Without the intention to identify with them, believe in them, assume them as your reality, or in other words, go inside them, they are not reality. You're not creating them. Do you see it? To merely notice them is just to notice them. And then decide intentionally what you want to create, right? Your attention to them plus your intention, right? Attention plus intention, even if it's unintentional, as an example that you're reacting to them, right? Because when you react to them, you are going within them, you're embodying them, you're identifying with them as your reality. You're giving them your light, you're giving them the life. You give them both attention and intention, right? You're intentionally creating reality, right? And then you give them solidity and continuity. Do you see it? But merely recognizing that they're there is not We're not talking about that. That doesn't, we're not, you create your own reality. You give the meaning, right? You decide. So attention creates reality, both inner and outer, right? The more attention you give something, the more aware you are of it, and the more intentional you become. The more reality, the more solidity, the more solid it becomes. The more you believe in it, the more you assume it's reality. Do you see it? The more attention you give something, the more aware you are of it. The more intentional you become. The more you assume it's true. The more you trust it and believe it. Right? Do you see it? Then it becomes reality. You move from merely looking at it to looking as it, or from it, or intentional. Right? Putting your intention on it. Now you're becoming intentional. It's becoming reality. You're looking as it and from it. You're trusting it. You're assuming it. You're believing it. Right? That's really what happens. That's what beliefs are. With beliefs, we have beliefs that we believe they are reality. Right? We believe them to be so true. These assumptions or beliefs to be so true that you don't distinguish them to just be simply beliefs or thoughts or feelings about reality. Right? You start believing in those conditions, both outer and inner. Without your attention, without your awareness, and your intention, your desire to identify with them, even if that's unintentionally desiring to identify with them. In other words, you're reacting to them. Like my client that saw those kids playing, she decided what meaning she was going to give to those conditions. She wasn't identifying with it as an annoyance, as a frustration. Right? She was deciding to create her reality, right? Those conditions, without your light, without your awareness, without your focus, without your attention, without you being intentional with them, they fade and disappear from your experience, and vice versa, right? That's also the other way is you can put your attention on what you want. You can go to that awareness center. You can remove your attention from the inner screen of thoughts and feelings about the outer world, or your attention to the outer world, to those outer people, events and circumstances, the outer screen, and move to the center. I'm going to show this in a few minutes in pictures so you can really see it. So your attention, your awareness of being is absolutely unlimited and can travel anywhere in time and space. That's a superpower. Your awareness, your attention, your focus is powerful. But how are you using it? Where are you and who are you? Right? Ask those questions like Vadim Zeland in Reality Transurfing and Tufti, the priestess. Yes, where are you and where's your attention? Who are you and where are you? Ask those questions so you can light up any frame or image of reality there ever was, is, or will ever be right now with your attention. Who are you? Where are you? When are you? Right? When in time are you? Are you remembering it wrong? Are you remembering dwelling on the past? Where are you? When are you? Who are you? Because that's your attention, that's your awareness. That determines your whole entire experience of reality. Source energy flows where your attention goes. You hear all the spiritual teachers talk about that. Energy flows where your attention goes. In other words, source energy, you as source energy, flows where your attention, where your awareness, where your light, where your focus goes. It can be no other way. That's why they always say that. You're perceiving the light, attention, awareness. Remember, you're the lighthouse looking at reality with your own light, right? Everything is your light, but you're looking for things with it. But you are the light. You are that attention. You're perceiving your light, your attention, your awareness is reality, all of it. There's no out there, as John Wheeler says, and even Bashar talks about that. Bashar talks about that idea. You're perceiving your light, your attention, your awareness is reality. It's all of it. There is no out there. There's only your perceiving. There's not even perceptions. It's just your perceiving. That's the entire reality, right? So the question is, where is your attention? As Vadim Zeland in Tufti, the priestess, asks, right? In Reality Transurfing, remember he's the author of Reality Transurfing, which I talk often about, right? Who am I and where am I? And another question could even be, when am I? Because remember, it's all happening right now. In other words, Vadim Zeland in his book, Tufti the Priestess, talks about where's your attention. Normally it's either on the inner screen of thoughts and feelings and assumptions or the outer screen of people, events, and circumstances. Here you are, having your 3D linear horizontal experience, but you are that divine being. You are the I am of Scripture. But your attention is locked in either one of these screens. You're in the present frame. Remember, it's like a film roll. All frames exist. You're having this 3D experience. You're in a certain script. You're on a certain film roll. You're in a certain alternative parallel reality, having an experience, and your attention's here in the present frame. But that present frame is already a past frame, right? Because now is always moving. It's now, 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 now. That present moment's always moving. But when you're locked in the present frame looking around you and saying, what's going on with these conditions? And then you're having thoughts of feelings of it. Your attention's either here, or really it's a combination of it. Your attention's out there looking at the people, events, and circumstances. Why is this happening? Why hasn't it changed? Why are these conditions showing up? And then you're having thoughts and feelings about them. So your attention is really a combination of both of these. What Vadim Zeland talks about is putting your attention on the awareness center, right? Where you can still see and notice these screens. You notice your thoughts and feelings. You observe them. You notice the people, events, and circumstances. But you're not giving them all your intention and attention. You're putting it on the inner screen or the inner frame, right? Your awareness center of how you would like things to be. Seeing things how you would like them to be. Or if it's a past event, how you would have liked them to be. Always focusing on your wish fulfilled, your ideal, right? Remember, the past frame and the present frame, those are the inner and outer screens, right? Those are the inner outer screens. They're both past. Because you're already in the past. You're always in the present moment when you're in that awareness center. When you're keeping aware, you're aware of these two screens, but you're not living them. You're not inside them. You're here in your awareness center, right? And remember, the future frame becomes your awareness center. You focus on the future, that awareness center. But really, whether it's the past, present, or future, they're all within that film roll archive. They're all in that eternity film roll archive. And you decide your experience of reality by focusing your attention on one of these screens. Where are you? When are you? Who are you? Remember that I am. That's what that email that I got from that subscriber that did the 48-hour challenge. Move to that awareness center. Right? The key, so what's the key? The key is imagining and assuming your ideal reality while being aware of it, but not identifying with the inner and outer screens. Do you see it? Being aware of the people, events, and circumstances, being aware and observing your thoughts and feelings, but not identifying with them as reality. These are just thoughts and feelings about reality. These are just temporary outer conditions of that 3D experience. Both of these are temporary. The only reality, the true reality, is your imagination, your awareness center. That's the only reality. That doesn't change. That awareness is always untouched by the inner screen of thoughts and feelings and the people in the outer screen of people, events, and circumstances. Very big here today. Remember, you are observing the inner screen of thoughts and feelings and the outer screen of people, events, and conditions while shifting your attention to the awareness center by imagining, assuming, and affirming your reality identity as you would like it to be, not as it appears to be. Remember that those inner and outer screens are temporary. There are temporary appearances. They're temporary forms taking place in your I am awareness that's untouched by either of them, right? Remember, this I am awareness is untouched by any of these changing forms. So, returning to your awareness center is your dwelling place, right? As Neville Goddard says, returning to your dwelling place, persisting in your wish fulfilled, right? Vadim Zeland suggests this. He goes, say to yourself, I see myself and I see reality. Wake up. He suggests waking up, because the 3D reality is a waking dream. Like your night dream. Like when you dream something, all of those people, events, and circumstances are coming from within you. And then you wake up and say, oh, it was only a dream. But it all came from within you. The same with the waking dream. The daydream, your waking reality. All those people, events, and circumstances are coming out from within you. They're your perceiving. It's the same, right? So see yourself, see reality. He says, this is the idea, guys, of following the script. Awake and awake, not being unconsciously led by it, right? Following the script by being awake and not being unconsciously led by the script, right? You're no longer asleep and occupied by the script with unclear thoughts and non-conscious actions, as he talks about, non-conscious actions, right? You, unlike others around you, have woken up, and this is what Vadim Zeland says, have woken up in the dream as if you had stepped down from the cinema hall, and at any moment you can leave or return to the movie and walk around among the characters, regardless of the narrative. You're waking up in the movie script. You're not disturbing it, you're following the script. But now you're awake, you're intentionally following the script. You're intentionally following those conditions, whatever those are, while you're lighting up, while you're choosing a new film role. We've talked about that in other videos, right? So you're awake now in the script. You're no longer asleep. It's the idea of being lucid in 3D reality, just like in a dream where you have lucid dreaming, where you wake up in the dream and know that you're dreaming. Now you have some creative control in that dream, right? So whether it's a daydream, whether it's your waking reality or your night or your sleeping reality, they're both realities. Whether it's a dream at night or a dream during the day, they're both dreams. And you can wake up, you can control it, you can become lucid and awake. How? By intentionally directing your attention and your focus. That's powerful. So the moment, this is what Vadim Zeland says, the moment you wake up and take control of your attention, the script will lose its hold on you. Remember, this 3D reality, this is the script. This is one possible reality, one possible film role, one possible parallel alternative reality that you can experience. But when we're caught in the current frame, you're unsatisfied with the conditions, right? And having thoughts and feelings about them and wanting to change them. Now you're asleep in the script. When you wake up, you can control where your attention is, right? Your I am, that's reality. That's the only reality. This is the experience of it. Reality, this is what Vadim Zeland says. Reality is what has never been and never will be, and only is in the here and now. That's reality. Even the current frame is already in the past. It's virtual. It's a virtual frame now that appears, but the current reality, the now moment, is only here. This is what he says. Reality only exists for a single moment, like a frame on a film roll, which moves from the past into the future. So do you see it? So these frames move. They retreat to the past. As this moment changes, in your I am awareness, as that frame moves, as your awareness moves, these frames retreat to what we call the past. But remember, all frames exist right now in that virtual film archive. And you get to decide where you put your attention. You get to decide where you move your awareness and your focus. He says this means that in any moment, only the immediate impression of reality, this right here, the illuminated frame, that's the illuminated frame, is ever real. That's what's real. That's reality. Your I am awareness. That awareness center is the only reality. Your imagination. Everything else is virtual. These frames now become virtual, right? All of these are virtual. The past as well as the future and the current frame, because you're in the only reality, the now moment. That now frame, right? The only impression of reality is right here, right? And it is all stored, this is what he says, all these frames are stored forever in the film roll archive, where everything is recorded. Everything has been, that will be, or will ever be, is here in that film archive. Every single frame of reality, every moment that you ever had will have, or are having is in this film archive. And the only reality in the now moment is where your I am awareness is. It's the only reality, your imagination, right here. And as you move as your mix of thoughts, feelings, and assumptions change, as you move your attention, as you move your focus, that previous frame that where you were, that frame that where your attention was, moves to the past, retreats, but it's still there in the Film Roll archive. And you can see any of them anytime with your focus and attention. Remember, your awareness of being is reality, and it can go anywhere in time and space. So that's how you master really 3D conditions and 3D reality. 3D conditions or 3D reality is nothing. In other words, it's no thing. You give it meaning without you, without your attention, without your light. It doesn't have, you give it life, you give it light, you give it reality, you resurrect it. I am the way, I am the light, I am the resurrection. It's all you. I am your host, Tom Kearin, and this is the Be Something Wonderful studio of higher consciousness, where we help you level up and become the best version of yourself. Creatives, thank you. Thank you for being with me. Thank you for liking and sharing and commenting on the videos. Thank you for being part of our Facebook group, the Be Something Wonderful Ambassadors, at facebook.com/groups/Be Something Wonderful. Joining our Instagram and Twitter or liking those, you can find us there at Tom Kearin. And also for joining our membership channel. If you've joined us, thank you for being a member. There's a link below if you're not a member and you want to check it out. We're going to have a live stream. I'm going to announce that soon. I promised we'll have a date in September, probably middle to late September, for our next live stream. We're going to answer your questions live right here in the studios of Be Something Wonderful in Las Vegas. I'll come to you on a Sunday morning in September, a sunny Sunday morning in September, to answer your questions live. You can send your questions now to info@besomethingwonderful.com. I'm starting to accumulate the new questions for this new live stream. That will be broadcast exclusively on the Be Something Wonderful membership channel. Creators, with great love, with great light and infinite gratitude, this is Tom with Be Something Wonderful, coming to you here from the studios in Las Vegas. Until next time, we'll see you soon.